All right. Well, Dave Berke, a retired U.S. Marine Corps officer, and Ken Timmerman is a senior fellow at the America First Policy Institute. Gentlemen, welcome. Ken, I'm going to start with you. Let's get into what seems to be increasing tension between the U.S. and Iran. President Trump saying, you will know if the ceasefire has been broken. Do you think we're close to that actually happening?
I think we are close to that happening, and this was absolutely something that we could have foreseen. I've been talking about this actually for weeks since the ceasefire began. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards, they thrive on conflict. They have been they've been itching to get into a fight with the U.S. Navy. They have been wanting to strike a blow against U.S. warships in the Strait of Hormuz. That appears to be what they tried to do yesterday, and we responded to that. Mohsen Rezai, who is now the military advisor to the new supreme leader, who seems very much alive, by the way. He had a 2-hour meeting, we're told, by the Iranians with President Pezeshkian yesterday. Mohsen Rezai said there can be no deal with the United States, no reopening of the Strait of Hormuz until the United States gets this, pays war reparations. So the Iranians are doing what they always do when they get close to a deal. They say, we want more. And they're going to keep on demanding more and more and more. This regime is not going to make a deal that we can accept.
Ken, real quick, I want to follow up on something you said. You do believe the Ayatollah is alive. You mentioned that 2-hour meeting. You weren't being sarcastic, right? You believe he's alive?
No, I quite seriously. They showed some video of it, some still photographs of it, and a statement. And no, that's coming from the Iranian media. You never know with deep fakes.
Yes, deep fakes, and we didn't see any cardboard, I guess, in this time around. U.S. Central Command, Dave, they are talking about this. They said this in a quote, responded with self-defense airstrikes on Iranian targets after 3 Navy destroyers came under missile fire and drone fire. In response, the U.S. struck key Iranian oil ports, in which President Trump described as a love tap. CENTCOM also put this out this morning. There are currently more than 70 tankers that U.S. forces are preventing from entering or leaving Iranian ports. These commercial ships have the capacity to transport 166 million barrels of Iranian oil worth an estimated $13 billion plus. Thoughts on these developments and when you think we may get the Strait of Hormuz open again?
Well, my initial thought is I don't know who would want to mess with the U.S. Navy. This is an environment that I think ultimately has been created by what the military has done over the last several months. And I understand that there's probably a lot of negotiations going on, but I think the aspect that we have a lot of control over is our ability to manage the military component of that fight. And I think right now the Navy is demonstrating at will that their ability to A, defend themselves, and B, exert themselves. And I think it's just a matter of time before Iran recognizes that that component of this is not something they want to mess with. I don't think the U.S. Navy is anybody that you should be trifling with at all, certainly in the Gulf right now.
Yeah, you know, the Washington Post, Ken, is reporting that a leaked CIA briefing to the White House concludes that Iran retains significant ballistic missile capabilities, according to a confidential CIA analysis provided to Trump officials. Now, the regime retains roughly 70% of its pre-war missile stockpile and 75% of its mobile launcher inventory. A U.S. official told the Washington Post that Iran has recovered and reopened the vast majority of the underground storage facilities damaged in the early stages of the war. Now, sources added that Iran has not only repaired damaged missiles, but has also managed to produce new ones. You know, it's interesting because we've heard President Trump continuously say, you know, we've obliterated them. We've obliterated any of their abilities to really fight back on a large scale. So when you hear about those ballistic missile capabilities they retain, the fact that they're still fighting back in any way that they can, is that a significant contradiction of what we've heard from President Trump?
I would like to know the names of those unnamed officials who are leaking classified intelligence, because I have very serious doubts as to how accurate those reports are. Why do you leak something like that? Because you want to spin the news cycle. You want to make the president look bad. And the Washington Post is the one that's doing it. Look, this is one of the news organizations like the New York Times that got a Pulitzer Prize that they've never returned for the Russia hoax. They should have returned that. It's fake news. I'm sure that the Iranians still have missile capabilities. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that they still have missile capabilities. We know where they are. Every time that they get one of those missile launchers out and parade it in, by the way, downtown Tehran in civilian neighborhoods, you talk about war crimes in the making. We're watching that missile launcher, watching where it goes home to, and that home is going to be targeted in the next round. Look, the Iranians are just playing with us. Time is on our side. That's a very important thing to understand. They haven't gotten that yet. They think time is on their side, that they can string this out. We'll get into the midterms. The president's going to cave. Time is on our side because of the U.S. military, because of the U.S. Navy, as we've just been hearing.